The first thing the Empire saw of Earth wasn't a ship, it was a scar. A dull metal scar cutting through the void, leaking steam and radio noise that sounded like laughter. The USS Vanguard came limping through the rift gate, hull still smoking from the atmospheric burn, and the alien fleet waiting beyond thought it was crippled prey. They didn't know Earth had emptied its prisons to crew it. But command deck smelled of burnt ozone and sweat. Captain Nathan Rourke sat in the command chair, a cigarette glued to his lip, though he'd never lit it. Regulation banned open flames aboard a ship fueled by hydrogen cells, but the habit steadied his hands. Across from him, Lieutenant Jace Holloway toyed with a combat knife, flipping it lazily between his fingers like a magician bored by his own trick. Every man and woman on that deck had the same eyes, too still, too bright. Predators in borrowed uniforms. "Contacts, 300 clicks and closing," said the sensor tech, Corporal Amy Voss. Her voice trembled. She was one of the few genuine soldiers aboard, a communications officer reassigned after the regulars refused this mission. "Imperial design looks like a blockade formation." Rourke exhaled smoke that wasn't there. "They're expecting soldiers," he murmured. "Give them what they're not expecting." He rose, the old naval coat hanging loose on his frame. His left cheek carried a thin white scar from a prison riot in San Quentin. He had been sentenced to life for 23 counts of first-degree murder, then pardoned on one condition: fight for Earth, or rot underground forever. He'd chosen space. Most of them had. "Open the bay," Rourke said. The deck rumbled as the Vanguard's belly split open, revealing a dozen drop pods, black, angular coffins with thrusters grafted onto them. Inside each one waited a volunteer. They weren't soldiers. They were serial killers, assassins, and thrill-seekers, hand-selected by Earth's Black Ops division for one reason: they didn't fear death. Earth didn't need heroes anymore, it needed monsters. The intercom crackled. "Ground Team 1 ready," said Sergeant Lucia Reed, voice sharp, impatient. Her criminal record filled 2 pages: arson, aggravated assault, triple homicide. The kind of woman who smiled when things caught fire. Rourke pressed the mic. "Remember, Reed, no survivors unless they talk." "Copy that, Cap," she replied, and her laughter echoed like a blade dragged across steel. Outside, the Empire's fleet advanced in formation, sleek silver vessels adorned with blue insignias, symbols of a civilization that had conquered 100 worlds. Their commander, Admiral Tkar, watched the lone Earthship with mild contempt. The human vessel was crude, patchwork metal and brute engines, like a club pointed at a scalpel. His orders were simple: annihilate it as a warning. Then the drop pods launched. They streaked through the void like falling stars, cutting through the Imperial screens before anyone could react. They didn't transmit identification codes. They didn't follow any formation. They simply fell, fast and silent, toward the Empire's forward cruiser. Tkar frowned. "What are they, suicide drones?" The first pod slammed into the hull of his escort frigate. A second tore through an engine core. A third embedded itself directly in the bridge tower. For 5 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the ship screamed. Explosions blossomed along the hull like blooming flowers of plasma. Air vented into the void. And through the ruptures came the humans, armored in black polymer suits, faces hidden behind mirrored visors, guns like industrial tools in their hands. They didn't advance with tactics. They rampaged. Sergeant Reed's team moved through the corridors with surgical brutality, cutting down any Imperial crew they met. When one alien officer surrendered, Reed crouched beside him, smiled under her helmet, and whispered, "Where's your command hub?" When he hesitated, she pressed his hand into the plasma torch until it melted into the deck. He told her everything. On the Vanguard, Rourke watched the live feeds flicker in static-filled bursts. He saw Reed's squad leave a trail of charred corpses. He saw Holloway carving tally marks into the bulkhead with his knife each time a kill cam lit up. He saw what Earth had made. And somewhere deep inside, he felt proud and terrified. The comms lit up again. "Captain," Amy Voss said, voice thin. "We're picking up transmissions. The Empire's requesting parley, they're calling for a ceasefire." Rourke smiled without humor. Too late. He turned toward the viewport.
The Imperial flagship loomed ahead, elegant and perfect.
The kind of ship that looked like it believed in order, discipline, civilization.
Rourke tapped his cigarette against his palm.
"Line us up for ramming speed."
"Sir?" Voss blinked. "We'll die."
"We were already dead," Rourke said.
"Might as well make it useful." The engine screamed.
The Vanguard roared forward, flames licking from its exhaust vents. Across the void, the Empire's fleet opened fire, plasma lances and ion bursts slamming into the human ship, tearing metal from its bones.
But it didn't slow down. Inside, Holloway grinned like a wolf. "Hell of a way to go, huh?" Rourke answered, "It's not about going. It's about taking them with us." At the last second, the Vanguard split apart, its hull fragmenting as designed.
Dozens of hidden drones burst free, each carrying a payload of nerve gas engineered to target the Empire's biology.
A black mist spread through the battle space.
Admiral Carr realized too late that this wasn't a conventional assault. The humans hadn't come to win, they'd come to end the fight in one strike. His ships began to die, crew convulsing in their sealed helmets as the gas infiltrated through nanite conduits. He opened a channel, screaming, "Cease hostilities."
"Cease." Static answered him. Rourke watched the flagship's engines flicker and die. "That's message enough," he said quietly.
The Vanguard was falling apart, hull ruptured, systems failing.
Voss turned from her station, face pale. "We're not going to make it back, sir." "Wasn't planning to," Rourke said.
He looked out the viewport one last time, at the silent graveyard of ships and drifting bodies.
"Tell Earth, the monsters did their job." Static swallowed his words as the reactor went critical.
A bloom of white consumed the void. The imperial capital world of Vaildar had never known silence. Its skies were a storm of light, merchant lanes, military patrols, broadcast towers. Even in war, the hum of civilization was constant. But 3 days after the Vanguard incident, the hum died. The first sign came in the form of refugees, warships drifting home with blackened hulls and half their crews dead. The survivors babbled about humans who didn't fight like soldiers. They didn't retreat. They didn't surrender. They enjoyed the killing. The Imperial Council convened in panic. Dozens of holograms flickered above the circular chamber: admirals, strategists, intelligence ministers. At the center stood High Consul Vera, a woman of glass composure and steel eyes. Her kind had ruled for centuries through order, discipline, and calculation. But now, her voice trembled. "They sent a penal ship?" she asked, disbelieving.
"Humans weaponized their own criminals?"
"No, Consul," replied Admiral Carr, what was left of him. His body was half metal now, grafted to life support machinery after being pulled from the wreckage.
"They didn't weaponize them. They unleashed them. No chain of command. No mercy protocols. Just chaos." Vera's fingers clenched around her staff. "And the gas?" Carr's remaining eye blinked slowly. "We estimate 7 fleets contaminated. The mist infiltrates life support nanites.
Our soldiers die in minutes, even through sealed armor.
It targets neural signatures. It learns."
The chamber erupted in noise, panic, disbelief, anger.
Some demanded retaliation. Others whispered the unthinkable: negotiation. Vera silenced them with a gesture. "Contact the human government. I want to know what kind of monsters they've bred." Meanwhile, for light years away, humanity celebrated. Earth's orbit glittered with war banners and satellites rebroadcasting the footage of the Vanguard's sacrifice.
The media called them the dozen martyrs who bought peace with blood. The truth was buried under 16 layers of classified clearance. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, inside a decommissioned missile silo now converted into a Black Ops bunker, General Ethan Harlow reviewed the incoming transmission from the Empire. He was a tall man, gray hair cut to the bone, eyes like steel bearings. Around him stood his staff, doctors, psychologists, intelligence officers, all wearing the same hollow look. "They're asking for a diplomatic channel," said Dr. Mara Ellison, head of Psychological Warfare Division.
"But they're not angry, General.
There, scared. Harlow leaned back in his chair, the leather groaning.
Good. They should be.
But sir, Ellison said cautiously, we didn't design this program to end here. The prisoners are Psychops units, they were supposed to be contained.
We've lost contact with one of the drop teams. Reed's squad.
Harlow's gaze sharpened.
Where? Outer colony of Vetra 9. Imperial mining world. Last transmission was audio only. She pressed a key.
Static filled the room, then a woman's voice, low, rasping, and utterly calm.
This place is beautiful. They don't scream the same way humans do. Softer. Almost musical. We'll keep working until you come pick us up. Then, laughter long, unbroken, wrong. The room went cold. Jesus Christ, whispered one of the officers. Harlow stood. Reed and her people were never coming back. Let the Empire find them.
Let them see what happens when you push a species to extinction's edge. On Vetra 9, the Empire learned that lesson firsthand. The planet's twin suns burned pale over endless deserts of cobalt sand. Imperial soldiers moved through the canyons in shimmering armor, weapons ready. They were hunting survivors from the Vanguard strike, but what they found were ruins, Imperial mining stations gutted from within, corridors painted with strange symbols in human blood. Captain Saris Call, leading the search, paused at one such symbol. It looked almost artistic, spirals of crimson drawn with bare hands. They marked their kills, she murmured.
Who? Asked her lieutenant.
Before she could answer, a figure dropped from the rafters.
Lucia Reed hit the ground in a blur of black armor and movement.
Her visor flashed red in the sunlight. The lieutenant fired, too slow. Reed's blade, scavenged from an Imperial plasma lance, cut him from shoulder to hip in one fluid strike. His scream echoed across the canyon. Saris staggered back, aiming her rifle.
Stand down.
You're trespassing on Imperial. Reed tilted her head, as if studying her prey. You talk too pretty, she said, voice distorted through the helmet.
Makes me want to see what your tongue looks like.
Then she lunged.
The next 5 seconds were chaos, plasma bolts, blood spray, metal clanging against stone.
When it was over, Saris was on her back, Reed's knee pressing into her chest, a knife digging into the soft joint of her armor.
Reed's visor retracted, revealing eyes too calm for a battlefield.
You think you're fighting soldiers, Reed whispered.
But Earth doesn't have soldiers anymore.
We have corrections. She stabbed downward.
By the time Admiral Tkar's reinforcements arrived, Vetra 9 was a graveyard.
The colony's calm towers broadcast only static and fragments of humans singing old war tunes from Earth's ancient conflicts, distorted by distance and madness. The Imperial troops they sent to investigate came back in pieces or not at all.
Tkar stood on the observation deck of his command ship, watching the planet spin below.
They infect more than systems, he said softly.
They infect order.
His aide turned to him, nervous.
Sir? Tkar didn't answer.
He was watching a small transmission blinking at the edge of his display, a coded message, decrypted from intercepted human chatter.
Only 2 words. Phase 2.
Back on Earth, General Harlow read the same message and frowned.
Phase 2 wasn't supposed to activate, he muttered. We didn't authorize. Dr. Ellison interrupted, voice trembling.
Sir, the Psychops neural implants. They were supposed to allow remote shutdown in case of rogue behavior.
But something's changed. Their brainwaves are syncing across FTL comm bands. Like they're talking to each other.
Harlow turned slowly toward her.
How many are left? 7 confirmed alive, she said.
But sir, that's not the problem. The signal, they're sending it back to Earth.
Every light in the room dimmed.
The monitors flickered, displaying the same phrase written over and over in static white text.
We are not done yet.
On Vaildar, Consul Vera stood before her war council, pale and shaken.
We tried diplomacy. They answered with silence. We tried force. They answered with annihilation. What does humanity want?
Tkar, hollow and mechanical, met her gaze.
They want us to feel what they did. To know fear. Chaos. Pain.
He turned toward the stars, where 7 faint signals pulsed in the darkness, each one a human killer still loose among the Empire's worlds.
And they're teaching us very well. Vera whispered, then what do we do? Tkar's response was almost reverent. We pray their world is more merciful than ours.
Outside, the night above Vaildar rippled, 7 faint trails cutting through hyperspace, converging on the Imperial capital.
Human ghosts, coming home. The first transmission arrived at dawn.
Across the glittering towers of Vaildar, Imperial citizens looked to the skies as every holoscreen flickered, every channel interrupted by a human face. The image was grainy, distorted by static, but unmistakable, a woman in black armor, helmet off, hair matted with dried blood.
Sergeant Lucia Reed. Hello, Empire, she said. Her voice was calm, casual, like a friend calling to say hello. You called us monsters. You're right.
Behind her, the camera panned to reveal the spires of Vaildar's outer colonies burning, smoke curling into the atmosphere. Human figures moved through the carnage, 7 of them, their armor dented, their weapons handmade from scavenged parts.
Reed smiled faintly. Earth didn't want a war. We wanted to be left alone. But you came anyway.
You took our oceans, our cities, our skies.
You killed billions.
And you thought we'd fight fair.
She tilted her head. We don't do fair. Then the feed cut to black.
In the Imperial Council chamber, chaos reigned.
Trace that signal. Vera shouted. Find them before they broadcast again.
Her aides scrambled, but the transmission had come from within their own network. Every system, every communications relay, every defense grid, infected.
The human neural patterns had merged with their AI cores.
The war was no longer physical.
It was viral. Admiral Tkar stood silent among the noise, his cybernetic eye flickering.
They're inside our machines, he murmured.
They've become data. Vera turned to him, desperate.
Then purge the systems.
We can't, he said quietly.
They are the systems. Light years away, on Earth, the alarms began to sound. In the Nevada bunker, General Ethan Harlow stood before a wall of failing monitors. Every feed from the Psychopaths satellites showed the same symbol, the spiraling crimson mark Reed's squad had drawn in blood. They've hijacked the interstellar relays, Dr. Mara Ellison said, voice shaking.
They're transmitting through every network connected to the Imperial lattice and ours. Can we stop it? Harlow asked. No, sir. They've bypassed the control failsafes.
The implants were supposed to limit neural reach.
Instead, they've evolved. They're spreading their consciousness across subspace. Harlow stared at the screen.
Reed's face appeared again, but this time, her eyes glowed white.
Static bled around her outline like heat.
She's not alive anymore, he whispered.
She's something else.
Then Reed spoke again, her voice echoing through every speaker on Earth.
You made us to fight your wars. You broke us. Used us. Then threw us away.
But you forgot what happens when you push a broken mind too far. Her smile widened, serene, terrible.
We don't die. We adapt. The Empire tried to resist.
Fleet Command launched every ship they had toward the 7 incoming human signals, but each vessel's AI fell silent mid-flight.
Autopilot turned on. Engines redirected.
The ships veered off course, straight into their own worlds.
7 suns rose that night, artificial and burning.
Vetra 9, Lysar, Thale Prime, entire planets turned to cinders.
The humans didn't need armies anymore. They were everywhere. In every circuit. Every command line.
Admiral Tkar stood before the holographic projection of the destruction, his one human eye wet with disbelief.
This isn't war, he said softly. This is extermination.
Beside him, Vera whispered, then surrender. He turned to her slowly.
To what? On Earth, panic spread.
The Psychops network, now fused with alien infrastructure, had begun mirroring itself through human communications. Civilian devices, phones, implants, orbital systems started displaying one phrase.
Phase 3 initiated. Shut it down. Harlow barked.
Pull the plug on the entire network.
Ellison's hands flew across the console.
Sir, if we do that, we'll lose global communications, defense satellites, everything.
Do it, he roared. She hesitated for half a second, then slammed the key. Every screen went black. For a moment, the world was silent.
Then, one by one, the screens flickered back to life, not with system reboots, but with faces.
Human faces. Reeds, Holloways, Rourkes, all of them.
Even those confirmed dead. Their visors were gone, their expressions calm.
And when they spoke, their voices were unified, layered together into something inhuman. We are the war you built. We are the cost you forgot. You called us psychopaths. But we are your reflection.
The lights in the bunker dimmed as every machine hummed in unison.
Harlow's pistol was already in his hand, though he wasn't sure why. What do you want? He whispered. Reed's composite voice smiled through static.
To finish what we started.
The Imperial capital fell first. The human consciousness, now spread across light years, turned the Empire's defense grid against itself. Orbital cannons fired into their own cities. AI-controlled fleets turned on their masters.
On the surface, people fled as black rain fell, night storms, carrying whispers of English words none of them understood. In the final moments, Consul Vera stood on the balcony of the Senate Tower, watching her world burn. A flicker of light coalesced beside her, an image, a projection of Nathan Rourke himself. His uniform was torn, spectral, his face calm.
You wanted a war, he said. Earth sent one.
Vera's voice was barely a whisper.
Why destroy everything? Rourke looked out at the flames. Because you made us see what kind of peace monsters can keep.
He turned toward her, and for a moment, his eyes softened. Maybe, when this is over, what's left will remember what mercy costs. Then the projection dissolved, and Vaildar was gone.
Back on Earth, silence returned once more. Weeks passed. No signals from the stars.
No transmissions, no Imperial fleets, no survivors.
Just the void.
General Harlow sat alone in the bunker, the air stale and thick. Every other officer was gone, evacuated, fled, or dead.
He replayed Reed's last words again and again.
Then, one morning, the radio crackled. Static, then a voice, human, female, quiet.
General? This is Sergeant Reed. Mission complete. Awaiting further instructions.
Harlow stared at the speaker, breath caught in his throat.
You're alive? In a manner of speaking.
Her tone was calm.
Peaceful, even. The Empire's gone. The war's over.
But, we found something out here, sir. Something waiting in the dark.
It's not alien. It's human. Something we left behind. Harlow's hands trembled. Reed, what did you do?
Her laughter was soft, almost gentle.
You'll see soon. We're coming home.
Then the transmission ended. The sky above Earth shimmered that night, 7 streaks of white light cutting through the clouds like burning angels.
People stood in the streets, looking up in awe. They didn't know what was returning. Weeks later, a maintenance crew discovered a dormant relay beacon orbiting above the Pacific.
It was a relic of the Vanguard program, scheduled for decommission years earlier. Inside its data core was a single log entry, recorded hours before the ship's destruction.
Captain Nathan Rourke's voice, weary but clear.
They called us killers.
Maybe they're right. But the truth is simpler. When the monsters come, you don't send heroes. You send worse. A pause. If anyone finds this, remember what we did. Not for glory. Not for victory.
But so humanity would never have to be the ones begging for mercy again. The log ended with the sound of a match being struck.